they will tell people to wait until they've been evicted with bailiffs and become officially homeless before they can help them.
Wow.
Yeah, it's shocking to even say it. It
Really
still shocks me every time I explain that. I'm Vicky Spratt, I's housing correspondent, specialising in all things housing crisis. And I've asked some of our readers to submit their private renting nightmares and their questions about private renting. I'm going to try and help solve some problems.
Hi Vicky, what do I do if I'm being completely ignored by my landlord?
It's a good start for your landlord to be responding to your messages. Like if your ceiling falls down or you've got a question about your rent, you really need to be able to get in touch with them. So I'm assuming this person doesn't have a letting agent that they can go through. Lots of people do, or a managing agent. If you don't have one and you really can't get hold of your landlord in an emergency, there are certain circumstances under which you could go to your local council. So if it's something like your ceiling fell down or you've got mould, that's an environmental hazard. So you could go to your local council's environmental team and report it to them. But again, if they can't get in touch with your landlord, that's quite a big problem. You could also get a solicitor. That's expensive, but that would be another option depending on what the issue is. This is actually one of those problems that really highlights where these huge gaps that people fall into in the private rented sector are. Because if you can't get hold of your private landlord, who's an individual, not a company, you don't necessarily know where they are in the world. I've had landlords like that in the past. You could really, really struggle. I actually heard from someone recently who doesn't know who their landlord is and can't get in touch with them.
Hi Vicky, we've been issued a Section 21 order for no good reason. This has happened to us, a family of 4, twice recently. What should I do?
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Section 21 is the sort of eviction that landlords use when they want to end a tenancy. They can issue it at short notice. You give someone 2 months to move out, and there doesn't have to be a reason. So if you're a renter and you get a Section 21, it doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. You don't have to have done anything wrong to be evicted like this. It is a leading cause of homelessness, and the latest government data shows that this sort of eviction is on the rise. The fact that it's happened to a family 4 twice kind of illustrates why the government really, really needs to ban it, which they promised to do in 2019, because that kind of instability is so bad for people. How can you do anything else if you keep having to move? How can you keep your kids in school? How can you work out how to get to your job every day, how long your commute's going to take? It's really, really, really disruptive. But unfortunately, if you are issued a Section 21, it's completely legal. There's not really anything you can do.
And what's the status of the bill in the House of Commons at the moment?
It's going through the House of Commons, going through Parliament. It's in what's called committee stages, but it's not yet turned from a bill to an act, which is where it becomes law. The only thing I would say to anyone who's been given a Section 21 is that you should check that it's been issued properly, because if it hasn't, then you can go to court. It can take time for you to actually be evicted, and until you are evicted with bailiffs, you actually don't have to leave. So the advice often is stay in the property until that happens. If you are going to need help from your local council, often because local councils are so overstretched and they're lacking social housing, they will tell people to wait until they've been evicted with bailiffs and become officially homeless before they can help them.
Wow.
But obviously it's shocking to even say it. It still shocks me every time I explain that. But if you are issued a Section 21 and you want to find somewhere else, obviously, and you can afford to, you can do that. But if you're going to need homelessness support from the state, the general advice would be wait until you are evicted, but obviously notify your council as quickly as possible.
Hi Vicky, my landlord is raising my rent by 20%. What should I do?
Oh, that's the email that everybody absolutely dreads getting from their landlord or letting agent. Your rent is going up by £200, £300, £400. Unfortunately, there's really not very much you can do. That's the bottom line. There is nothing in England and Wales to stop a landlord putting up the rent. Scotland introduced a rent freeze, which has been very controversial. Probably don't have time to get into that right now. But in England and Wales, there's nothing to stop a landlord doing that. Shelter, the homelessness charity, have a really good template on their website for negotiating against a rent increase. I often direct people to that. I think it's a really, really, really good letter that you can pull bits from or use the whole thing of. And I would encourage you to negotiate with your landlord or letting agent. I often hear from people who are being hit with rent increases they can't afford. And I do think landlords often see it as quite transactional with their tenants. They're operating a business in their eyes, so if you go in with another offer, they might meet you in the middle. That's not ideal. I do think we probably need better protections for people, because if you think your rent is £1,200 a month and it suddenly becomes £1,600 a month, that's a huge hike. And if your salary doesn't go up by that much and you have other commitments, you have a family, how are you supposed to make it work?
Yeah.